Alright, so people have been telling me that I should be doing some devlogs on what I've been working on. I've been programming. So I guess I'll give this a try. Call this episode 0 because I don't know what I'm doing and it makes a funny programmer joke. Alright, so I've been working on this 2D game engine with a lot of help with documentation, but also tutorials. But eventually, this tends to shape itself into my own thing. So that's good. What I've done is over here, you can launch the game. It loads up, and then you have Jean-Paul Mahon right there, and a background image. You can move him around using the W, A, S, and D keys, and you can move the camera around with the I, J, K, L keys because I'm lazy. But yeah, so first, this is a component-based system, so the character script can be like attached to any object, and that would become the player, and it moves just like the player. The renderer is also a script, so the renderer takes in a texture, and that's what can render different textures. So the newest thing I just implemented is, instead of having to build the project every time I want to change a component or add a new component, and adding components is so long and stuff. Well, now what I can do is if I have incorporated Lua, and now I can have things such as da 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 da. Okay, wait, that's not the best script. Such as da 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 da, a better script. Here I can initiate some variables that I'll make local because I can. I'm kind of new to Lua, although I've used it before. So here I initiate some variables. I have the player vector, which is where I want it to be, the PL vector, which is where it actually is, and the speed it can go. By the way, this isn't supposed to be a professional script, it's just to test things out. So there's a startup function that initiates on startup when the first thing the script does. Then after, everything else is updated all the time. So the process input function over here passes in the input and the delta time. The update only the delta, and the rendering stuff isn't actually implemented yet, so I won't talk about that. Let's start with update because it's the simplest one. So in update, we have the delta time, and that allows us to calculate some simple things that don't require the input. The newest thing I've added was actually the scene, where you can now create the scene from Lua. So that's why so I load some textures. I put in the file path from the executable, and I name the texture so that with the renderers I can refer back to these texture names to get them. I put the 0 and a 1 here because they render in alphabetical order. To make the background under this, I make the background render first and then the player render second, which kind of makes this like a layering system, a basic layering system, because I didn't implement any yet, and I just did that real fast because the objects are stored in maps that contain the game object and a string, so that you can refer back to them as a string to get them back, which makes finding objects a lot simpler. This is simple. I made basic documentation for myself and anybody else who I guess would use this, so my friends and stuff, so they can figure out how that works. Now I'm gonna make, you can see my little to-do list. I'm gonna try to make some system kind of like the Unity system, the prefabs in Unity, because that'll make it a lot easier than to have this big chunk every time I want. Like the player, it's like 3 lines of code when it could just be like, oh no, it's like 5 actually. So I want it to be so I can just initiate the player, refer back to a player prefab of some sort, because that's a good system in Unity. I need to make a parenting system because I don't have that. I have basic parenting, but I mean like I actually have the transformation parented between them so that they're like glued together. That I do not have. These things I've actually done, so don't need that. I guess that was my basic devlog for today. Thank you for watching if you did for some reason. And I guess I'll get back at you next time for my next devlog, which will be more organized and better. And I'll explain more what I'm doing. So yeah, see ya.